Shining the Light with IUMC welcomes you to another Meditate at 8.
John's message for today from 1 John 4 is that we will likely hear people talk about God, claim to have heard from God, and preach or teach as if what they are saying is a truth from God. How do we know what to believe? Is there a test that can help us distinguish truth from deception? John gives us two barometers for truth-telling. First, he says, those who deceive people belong to the Christ-denying world. They talk the world's language, and the world eats it up. Listen to the words that you hear being said. If you don't hear Christ mentioned, his birth, his life, his death, his resurrection, his promise to come again, then there's a problem. If the teaching says that Jesus was a good person, a good teacher, a good example, but not the Son of God, then there's a problem. If the message is that those who can have, should have, are entitled to have everything they want in this world, and that faith makes you wealthy by the world's standards, then there's a problem. You can be wealthy and be a Christian, but economic wealth isn't a reflection of whether you are Christian or how good of one you are. Jesus spoke to this directly when he said we should store up for ourselves treasures in heaven rather than on earth where they could decay or rust. For Jesus said, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Second barometer John offers for truth-telling comes down to love. If the message you are hearing doesn't tell you to love God and love one another, then the person spreading the message doesn't know God. Reading from 1 John 4, verses 7 through 10 from the Message, everyone who loves is born of God and experiences a relationship with God. The person who refuses to love doesn't know the first thing about God because God is love. So you can't know him if you don't know love. This is how God showed his love for us. God sent his only Son into the world so that we might live through him. This is the kind of love we are talking about. Not that we once upon a time loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son as a sacrifice to clear away our sins and the damage they've done to our relationship with God. My dear, dear friends, if God loved us like this, we certainly ought to love one another. If that kind of love isn't central to the message, then the message is false. John ends chapter 4 of his letter with some wonderfully affirming words. God is love, and when we take up that kind of love in our lives, love has the run of the house. It frees us from worry, from fear of death, fear of judgment. We were loved, now we love. It's just that simple. So many churches have done a great job talking about sin and judgment and death, but somewhere along the way they forget or never learned themselves that the key message of the gospel is love. John's letter is a reminder that the love that God has for us and expects of us is not superficial. It requires effort, but it's liberating. What would that kind of love look like in your life? To give love the run of your house?